नए गली न्यूज़ इंडिया चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन दबाना ना भूलें।
Oh, Salim Sheikh Sab is with us as well. Welcome, sir. Welcome to this conference.
It's a pleasure to join all of you.
Salaam alaikum Salim bhai.
So we'll have
Salim bhai, yes.
जी सलाम वालेकुम मौलाना साहब, मदनी साहब सलाम वालेकुम, सलाम वालेकुम सलीम भाई।
वालेकुम सलाम। सलीम भाई जो है वो बॉम्बे से है, इज अ जर्नलिस्ट एंड गली न्यूज, बॉम्बे में वेरी फेमस चैनल गली न्यूज, एंड सलीम भाई always raise all the local issues, Muslims issues.
It's a pleasure.
So Salim bhai accepted our invitation in very short notice about 1 hour ago. So Jazakallah, thank you very much Salim bhai.
Thank you for joining me.
Joining us. Salim bhai, जैसा कि आपको पता है कि जो हालात इंडिया में हो रहे हैं और जो अभी हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की शान में जो गुस्ताखी भी हुई है और जो भी मुसलमानों के ऊपर जो हालात इंडिया में गुजर रहे हैं, तो अभी आपने देखा कि मौलाना महमूद मदनी साहब हमारे साथ ऑनलाइन पे थे। इंशाल्लाह 26 जून को मौलाना महमूद मदनी साहब लंदन आ रहे हैं, यहाँ पर भी एक टॉप लेवल की मीटिंग होगी इंशाल्लाह ताला, तो उसका भी मैं आपको अपडेट दूंगा। और इस मीटिंग के अंदर सलीम भाई यूके के बहुत काफ़ी एरिया से लोग आए, जैसे कि बाटली है ड्यूसबरी के एरिया में, बोल्टन, जहाँ भी हम इस वक्त ग्रेटर मैनचेस्टर के एरिया में बैठे हैं बोल्टन, तो यहाँ के भी लोकल काउंसिलर्स हैं, यहाँ के भी हमारे भरूची वोरा के लीडर हमारे चेयरमैन वो भी है यहाँ पर, प्रेस्टन से हैं, लंदन से हमारे अहमद भाई नेकी वाले, वो भी, उनका भी ताल्लुक बॉम्बे से ही है, हमारे वाइस चेयर है वहाँ के। और दूसरे रशीद साहब कहाँ से ज्वाइन किए? रशीद साहब यूएसए से ज्वाइन किए हैं, और अपने रहीम साहब जो है वो हमको गल्फ कंट्री से भी ज्वाइन किए। मुफ्ती पांदो साहब जो है वो भी बहुत यहाँ पे माशाल्लाह लीडिंग
माशाल्लाह
मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी के। सो हम एक फिक्र के साथ बैठे, साउथ अफ्रीका से भी हमारे मेहमान यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं।
सलीम भाई गिव मी एन अपॉर्चुनिटी to first congratulate you for becoming a deputy Newham's London's vice chancellor. Let me have the privilege. And I'll tell everybody who's sitting around you and who's across the line, कि I know Mr. Salim Patel when I was covering Mumbai Bagh in Mumbai, Bombay. तो एक वो शख्स थे सलीम भाई जो लंदन वाले हम कहते हैं, क्योंकि मेरा भी नाम सलीम ही है, so I tell him Salim भाई लंदन वाले, and he was so much daily used to call me in the night and take the update of Mumbai Bagh, and he used to be the first viewer when I was in Mumbai Bagh, when I was used to be alive and all. So it was very pleasure for you, and even he invited me for a meeting in your parliament, I think so, House of Lords. Yeah, thank you very much for all this thing. It gives us a very pleasure, and एक बहुत हिम्मत हो जाती है कि आप जैसे लोग भी हमारे यहाँ पर जो है हमारे सपोर्ट में खड़े हुए। अब बात करते हैं कि नुपुर शर्मा की बात करते हैं, जो नुपुर शर्मा का गुस्ताखी बयान आया था सलीम भाई, उसके बाद यहाँ पर हालात जो है थोड़े से वो थे, मगर थैंक्स टू दिस गल्फ पीपल हु स्टार्टेड ऑल दिस थिंग, कि कुछ एक होप कहीं से भी हिंदुस्तान के मुसलमान को आ गई है कि यार के जो भी हो रहा है यहाँ पर हिंदुस्तान में, आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के बारे में जो बात हुई है, मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के बारे में जो बात हुई है, जो गुस्ताखी की गई है, जिसको जो चीज को गलत तरीके से पेश किया गया है, तो उसके खिलाफ बहुत ही रंजो, मुसलमान हर चीज बर्दाश्त कर सकता है, मगर अपने रसूल अपने हुजूर की जो है गुस्ताखी बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकता। दिस इज एवरी इंडिविजुअल मुस्लिम इज सेइंग इन इंडिया।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सलीम भाई, डेफिनेटली इसके लिए हम बैठे सलीम भाई कि हाउ वी कैन रेज द अवेयरनेस फ्रॉम, जैसे कि आपने कहा कि गल्फ कंट्री से अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह जो वॉइस उठी थी उसका जो असर हुआ, तो दोनों को सस्पेंड कर दिया गया पार्टी से, लेकिन हम यूके से क्या कर सकते हैं? मुफ्ती साहब, इफ यू वांट टू से सम वर्ड, प्लीज।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सलीम शेख साहब।
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम मुफ्ती साहब।
Walaikum assalam, jazakallah. We want to listen to you rather than me talking. They've heard enough from me. Please go ahead.
See, I was just telling about you can.
हम क्या कर सकते हैं यहाँ से, यूके से हम क्या कर सकते हैं?
जी देखिए, देयर आर एवरी प्रॉस एंड कॉन्स, आपको पता है एक कॉइन के दो साइड्स होते हैं। रिसेंटली एज आई नो यू, देन आई केम टू नो अबाउट लंदन एंड यू ऑल पर्सनालिटी सलीम भाई। मुझे इसके पहले नहीं मालूम था कि लंदन में कोई लोग जो है मुसलमानों के लिए फिक्र करते होंगे, जो लंदन में मुस्लिम्स हैं, जो कम्युनिटी है मुस्लिम्स के बारे में फिक्र करती होगी। रिसेंटली योर प्राइम मिनिस्टर विजिटेड इंडिया, एंड जो बुलडोजर अभी चल रहा है, जो मुसलमानों पर जुल्म हो रहा है, तो वो एक थोड़ा सा बैड इफेक्ट पड़ा वो बुलडोजर के ऊपर खड़े के, क्योंकि यहाँ पर वही हो रहा है आज भी। देखिए आप जो लोग कानपुर के उसमें जो इसमें थे उनके घरों को बुलडोजर से जो है उसको तोड़ा जा रहा है विदाउट एनी लॉ, विदाउट एनी नोटिस। अभी एक वीडियो वायरल हुई है, शायद आपको पता होगा, जहां पे मुसलमानों को जेल में मारा जा रहा है, जो कस्टडी में बहुत जोर जोर से मारा जा रहा है। आई थिंक हैव यू सीन और यू वांट मी शो यू?
we seen Salim bhai,
या
we seen all that.
और वो भी एक बीजेपी वाला उसको रिट्वीट करता है कि देखिए अब हमारी बारी है, whatever he is saying about it. So the situation here is very pathetic. The government is very silent about on this. The Indian government is silent. The only answer they gave was to the Gulf country. हमारी बातें कोई नहीं सुना, यहाँ पर इंडिया के लोगों की बातें कोई नहीं सुन रहा था। मगर अगर गवर्नमेंट ने जवाब दिया, हिंदुस्तान की गवर्नमेंट ने, तो गल्फ कंट्री को दिया। जुल्म ये हो रही, इंतहा यहाँ हो रही है, इंसल्ट आप रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का इंसल्ट यहाँ पर हो रही है, मगर उन्होंने जवाब जो है यहाँ पे कोई स्टेटमेंट कभी नहीं आया, किसी का भी नहीं आया, अनलेस दे आर आंसरेबल टू गल्फ, नॉट टू देयर कंट्रीज।
Yeah, very sad, very sad. Anybody wants to ask any question to Salim bhai?
एंड अभी रिसेंटली सलीम भाई, आई एम नॉट, मैं आप लोग पे रिमार्क नहीं कर रहा हूँ, बट आई एम ऑलवेज ऑब्जर्विंग यू एंड योर ग्रुप। सो मैंने अभी आपसे ये बताना था कि रिसेंटली जो आपके पार्लियामेंट में एक मीटिंग रखी गई थी, जो कश्मीरी फाइल बनाए थे उन लोग ने, उसके बारे में ही प्रेजेड दैट। सो दैट्स आई थिंक वी हैव टू सी दिस बिकॉज यू आर ऑल गोइंग टू अ वेरी गुड इमेज अबाउट दिस। सो ऐसे में भी कुछ होना चाहिए, और आप लोग का जो यहाँ के लिए हमारे लिए सपोर्ट है वो बहुत ही अच्छा है। एंड वी फील के हम वी फील के वी आर आर्म्ड, वी आर आर्म्ड विद पीपल लाइक यू।
नहीं इंशाल्लाह सलीम भाई, डेफिनेटली हमसे यहाँ पे जो भी हो सकेगा विल ट्राई टू डू आवर बेस्ट।
You are trying it. You are last time 12 member of Lords. You have arranged a meeting last time regarding CA and so now Mufti Sahab, now there is a conclusion. The Indian government is answerable to you all people, not to us, not to Indians. They are answering you. They are not answering us. So I request the international community to always come and ask the government कि क्या हो रहा है भाई।
This is very good point. It's very sad सलीम भाई के वो आपको इग्नोर करे। आपको मैं बता दूं आपकी इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए कि अभी 10-15 मिनट में सलमान खुर्शीद साहब भी ज्वाइन करेंगे हमको।
जी 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 जी।
सलमान खुर्शीद साहब इस वक्त प्राग में हैं और वो प्राग से अभी एनी टाइम इंशाल्लाह वो भी ज्वाइन करेंगे।
जी जी।
तो हमको खुशी होगी कि आप भी जरा ऑनलाइन रह के सुने। और जी हमारे दिलावर भाई जो है वो नेशनल प्रेसिडेंट है गोरा वॉइस के, वो आपसे कुछ करना।
जी दिलावर भाई
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम। वालेकुम सलाम दिलावर भाई।
हमको ये जो ऑथेंटिक जो हो रहा है ना, उसकी कुछ क्लिप्स आप इकट्ठा कर सकते हैं।
जी हम कर सकते हैं। जी हम कर,
ये परसिक्यूशन और जहाँ भी ये हंगामे हो रहे हैं, तो कभी कभी क्या होता है कि बहुत पुरानी
कभी नहीं, ऑलवेज ऑलवेज
आ जाती है। तो हमको प्रॉपर चाहिए फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर्स एंड क्लिप्स मिले तो, या कुछ किसी की कमेंट्री हो कि भाई मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ है, तो उसको हम इकट्ठा करके हम यहाँ भी उनको हमारे एमपीज वगैरह और ये कमिश्नर है वगैरह या हमारे जो सपोर्टर है उनको हम दिखा सकते हैं कि भाई देखो ये जेन्युइन है, ये कोई ऐसा मटेरियल नहीं है कि जो हमने ऐसे ही वीडियो से या यूट्यूब से निकाला है।
जी जी जी
कुछ हो सके
जी definitely we can make a WhatsApp group like Salim had made last time in CA and NRC, and we can share internationally, we can some of the clips to you from authentic people, उनके clips, उनके bites वगैरह हम सब भेज सकते हैं।
So that will be very helpful to us, so we can take it to the International Human Rights Commission,
right,
all the embassies and or our MPs, and we can address them and show them, look, this is what is happening in India with minorities.
Right. So at the same time, we have to see also that there is something from international human rights to the government of India regarding everything about this, about the clip, about the incidents.
Right, and this bulldozing of the buildings and houses, are they illegally built or were they just doing it because of?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. To whatever I know, there are a lot of things illegal here in India. I'm talking about the houses, I'm talking about the buildings and all. So now they are using a target. They know it's been illegal for last so many years. Now half of Delhi railway station nearby the Delhi railway station. The houses, the hotels they are has to be demolished for expansion of railway station, right? So there is an already order. Now it has been in court, and there is always a hanging sword on them. So now they take advantage of this and they start bulldozing it. Even there were victims who said कि हमारा सब कुछ legal है.
Do they not follow the procedure like court procedure?
They are not. It's bulldozer. They are not following any procedure.
Okay. Thank you.
Salim bhai, I am on Twitter quite active. My Twitter handle is @_Peace Institute.
Right,
if you
sir.
follow me, I will follow you back.
Definitely, it will be a pleasure.
And then we can take it from there.
Right, sir.
Salim bhai, I think we have got a couple of more minutes before we take on another very scholars. Lekin as a journalist, how do you feel at the moment? I mean, I often ask this question to one of my good friend Ravish Kumar ji, Barkhadat, Abhisha Sharma को भी इतना मैं नहीं जानता हूँ, लेकिन उन दोनों को मैं ये पूछता रहता हूँ कि how do you feel as a journalist and what kind of safety and security measures you have got in place when you actually take up the institutions like Indian government on certain sensitive issue?
Now see, whatever we have to say, we have to say it. We have to show what is going on, irrespective of what government do with us. हमको वही बोलना है जो दिखाया जा रहा है, जो सच्चाई है. अब उसके बाद अगर गवर्नमेंट को अच्छा नहीं लगता, नो गवर्नमेंट लाइक्स क्रिटिक्स. सो अगर जो आदमी बोलता है, अगर कोई चीज दिखाता है, सच्चाई दिखाता है, तो द गवर्नमेंट डेफिनेटली गो आफ्टर देम.
No, but what about the safety of yourself and your family members?
No, I am
environment थोड़ा सा volatile.
नहीं, इतना worst situation इंडिया में अभी तक नहीं आया. I am very much safe. Stay in Mohammed Road, Muslim localities. I moved to non-Muslim. My friends are non-Muslim. मैं इतना माहौल खराब अभी तक नहीं हुआ इंडिया का कि आज एक आदमी बोलता है तो उसके पीछे there is a Twitter war. There is a Twitter war. Mufti साहब must be knowing it. It is always on a Twitter. It is always not तेरे को छोड़ेंगे नहीं, ऐसा कर देंगे. Even Mufti साहब must be getting comments about this. But एक्चुअली में ये जो होता है, ये 99% मेरे ख्याल से ये नहीं होता. ये एक आउटरीच रहता है, जैसे दोनों सेक्शन के जो सेक्ट के रहते हैं. एक मैं हूँ और सामने वाला है, जो उनके फॉलोअर्स हैं, जो उनके पेड बीजेपी की जो पेड जो रिट्वीट्स करते हैं, दे स्टार्ट हेट मॉन्गरी जो रहते हैं. ये सब जो लोग हैं ना, दे डू ऑल दिस थिंग, दे क्रिएट नॉनसेंस ऑन द ट्विटर एंड ऑल. अब बस एक माहौल पैदा करते हैं. बट देयर इज नथिंग लाइक दिस कि अगर कोई कुछ बोला, इवन इफ यू से अबाउट द राज ठाकरे, इफ यू सी माय क्लिप, आई थिंक सलीम भाई इवन आई हैव आस्क्ड आई वाज रनिंग आफ्टर होम मिनिस्टर ऑफ महाराष्ट्र, asking him why you have not arrested Raj Thakre. I was after Jayant Patil, central minister. Why you have not arrested? Nothing happens to me. I was against in CA NRC. I was against total Maharashtra government, but nothing happens to me. Not a single notice came to me.
So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
We applaud your courage.
Is aspirationally as well as morally necessary for minorities of our country, as much as it is for the liberal-minded majority. And the liberal-minded majority is, for the present, I might say, is the voters who don't vote for the present government. And that's about 60% of them. It's another matter that they are divided amongst themselves in terms of logistics, of politics, each group having dominance in a particular region followed by a particular leader, and therefore integrating it or converging it has thus far not been possible. There have been some initial attempts made which haven't reached a conclusion and have not reached certainly the destination that we all wanted to reach. Now the Muslims of India, and when I say Muslims, they are the largest minority community. There are many others, some who might actually be included in the majority, but find themselves marginalized, and that's also the Dalits of our country. Some segments of backward communities, what I call the backward classes, they all to an extent suffer the same kind of discrimination or unfairness, if you like, that is inflicted on Muslims. And Muslims also have backward Muslims. We must keep that in mind, that there are significant differences between each group because of the subgroups that have emerged for good reason, that have emerged over the years. So what is that we need to do, and what is it that we can urge those of you who are concerned about India, but you have your homes in various countries, particularly in the UK, and indeed have worked now into the second, third generation in the West. What is it that you can do? One, of course, it's very encouraging to know that you continue to have a very serious concern about people, and they may well be relatives and people and friends at home. And I don't say that they belong to any one single community, because when you live in India and your relatives who live in India have friends across the aisle with every community, and that's the strength of India that we finally need to reiterate. We need to strengthen, we need to repair if it goes wrong, and then we need to project that as the ultimate uh, uh, endorsement of the secular idea or the inclusive idea. And there are powerful lobbies that are emerging in the West, in the UK and other places, that oppose this idea. And it surprises me that people who fight for equal rights in the West, where they are a minority, but they don't seem to show that sensitivity for what is happening within our own country in India. That seems very, very surprising. And that, of course, I'm sure that you understand better than I do. But we have to ensure that the conversation in the West remains committed to the liberal, inclusive structure of Indian society that we have cherished and we have valued for such a long time, which is being attempted to be dismantled. And there are many manifestations of that. I think that we need not go into those specific details. You asked me one question, and the reactions in the world. Now we are being advised by people saying, don't celebrate the reactions in the world because this is a long-term affair and this would be damaging for Indian Muslims. Now I think it's neither a case of celebration nor a case of seeking endorsement, but this is a reality. What I think the government of India has failed to understand is that running a campaign against any community, whether it's explicit or implicit, whether it's a carefully crafted campaign against a community for purposes of political electoral advantage, has limits, and everybody who's our friend anywhere in the world would want to be able to ignore and turn away from some issues that they believe must be settled within the country, and that we understand. We understand that one must not look beyond the country for solving our problems at home. But having said that, there are limits, and I do believe, and I think we all will agree, that those limits were crossed by the spokespersons involved. Those were crossed by those spokespersons involved because I do believe they didn't understand the impact it would have on the Muslim mind, which is vastly different from the impact of the routine things that have been happening and that have been extremely painful, but they are in a different category from the kind of statements that were made during that exchange about 10 days ago. Unfortunately, if the spokespersons didn't realize the impact and the consequences, the government of India also seems to be a little bit short-sighted on this by saying that this is the fringe element, we've taken action against them, and so on and so forth. I think that's not enough. There has to be a categorical commitment that we will not allow this to happen. And surely the government knows better than I do what it needs to do to ensure that something of like this nature doesn't happen. And now that it has happened, what is the method that's available, and the manner in which they would reach out to those who are as much concerned about this as we are in India. Many people in India, not just Muslims alone, have felt very uncomfortable about what has happened. But it was something that was coming. Considering the sort of freedom they've had to castigate particular cultures, particular communities, and believe that they have their way every time, I think is something that indicates that something like this was to happen sooner or later. But now that it's happened, how do they extricate themselves from it, and how do they reassure the world? We don't want this because we believe that the world has to do advocacy on our behalf, but that there is a common shared point of view between Muslims of India and those who are sympathetic to Muslims of India, and many Muslim and Muslim governments in the rest of the world. Now, we can't just say that because they are another country, therefore they have another set of principles of Islam. Islam is common to many civilizations and many countries, and therefore Islam equally is common when it comes to India. But Indian Islam has its own features, and Islamic history of India has its own features, and we are proud of that, and we would want to pursue that. But artificially to say, don't look at what somebody else is saying in sympathy or in resonance. Let us use the word resonance. I think that is again making a big mistake. That's thinking of this whole affair in somewhat outmoded, outdated technical terms about sovereignty and autonomy of thought and autonomy of governance of each country. We live in a global world. I mean, the fact that you have sought to have me come to your event is an indication that we are all linked, we are all interdependent. We may not see each other all the time, but we know that there are some shared values that bind us together. And it doesn't matter that you are from one country and I'm from another country, but the common values that we all cherish do bind us. And therefore, an artificial division between people who share common values simply because they are not on the same side of the international border is a meaningless statement. So there's a lot of you who have your spheres of influence in Europe and particularly in the UK can do in terms of advocacy, in terms of amplification of what these shared values are that we share, in terms of identifying people who continue to run campaigns, malicious campaigns, and try to turn people who are innocent and ignorant against a completely unreal vision of Islam. And I think the truly humanistic elements of Islam and the historical context of Islam is something that needs to be made more apparent to people, including Muslims who may not be fully aware and therefore are ill-equipped to respond. And for the rest, such connectivity between groups of people like you and like many others who are working in different parts of the UK and who are working in the United States, or they are working in India, for a liberal, inclusive society in which every segment and every section has an important role to play. In fact, we are proud that each section, including Muslims, have contributed a valuable contribution to the way of life that we describe as Indian. And we don't agree that the Indian way of life, as subscribed to or projected by the intellectuals who associate themselves with the BJP is truly that's a limited way of looking at India. India is rich, varied with its diversity and its fantastic culture, the roots of which grow back into many civilizations. But today they form the modern Indian civilization, part of the picture that was conceived in the Constitution of India, and therefore it is hurtful and painful when somebody walks with the Constitution and its preamble and the tricolor, and that person is castigated for not having taken permission to walk in peace with what is the most valuable part of our constitutional history. So let us be in constant touch. I think it's important ideas that you have, strategies that you have for dealing with these matters in the UK will be of help to us and will help us deal with these matters in India as well. And to the extent that any of your organizations and our organizations at home can participate in an ongoing dialogue and help each other intellectually, help each other in terms of ideology and in terms of the impact of that ideology in our respective societies, that would be a very useful exercise. And I believe that you have made a very good start by getting everyone together and offering us a chance to speak. I have my colleague, Mr. Sapal here, because I don't want this to remain a Muslim affair. We genuinely share with all communities, a common concern, whether it's Parsis or Jains or Sikhs or the Buddhists of India, with everyone. And as I've repeatedly said, the liberal Hindus of India, who are vastly in larger numbers than those who subscribe to a narrow thesis. So I would request you to give a few minutes to Mr. Sapal so that he can add a few words to what I've said. Thank you very much. I'm really honored that you've called me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Salman sir, would you prefer to take questions now or after? Thank you very much.
So again, it is a pleasure to have Gurdeep Saab with us. Gurdeep Saab is the official spokesperson of the Congress Party, as well as a former advisor to the Vice President of India, Hamid Ansari Saab. He's very well known. He's seen on television, and he's known for his secular values, and he holds that fundamentals in this mahol as well. So Gurdeep Saab, handing over to you.
Thank you, Umar, and thank you everyone for inviting us. It's not a pleasant occasion to speak today. For last few days, what is happening in India is something that we dreaded that this day would come. It's not an sudden occurrence. It was in making, and today, frankly, people who believe in constitutional values, who believe in secularism, are at a loss how to address this hate-mongering mob. I am not mincing any words. That's the fact today. That's the reality today. It's like one bully and maybe one bully in a class. So the entire class may be of people who are peace-loving people, but one bully is able to take over that class, and that's the situation in India today. There may be a majority of people who believe in secularism, who believe in multi-faith society, who believe in constitutional rights, who believe in equality, but we have a significant number of people who are forcing this entire society. It's coming apart at its seams. It is not a situation that people like us would have ever thought would come to it. But the question is, every single incident which tries to further this divide is being amplified by Indian media, is being amplified by the ruling establishment, and people are at loss how to address this situation, how to bring back normalcy in the relationships. And that is why I think we have to look back. We have to sometimes look back in the history and see that how in last 4 5 centuries how the communities were brought together. These are not new things which are happening in India. There's a lot of uh, cultural diversity that was there earlier also. And I have been talking to people, I have been discussing among ourselves. Maybe the way forward is going back to our own roots, and our roots not just in Constitution of India, but our culture which lie in the Sufi movement, which lie in the movement which started with Kabir and others, how they brought this society together, how people within their own communities spoke against the ills of their community and spoke for brotherhood, spoke for secularism, spoke for equal rights of others. We are again at that stage, and maybe we can draw some lessons, we can draw out some learnings from the Indian society in that era. And as Kabir said today, he कबीरा खड़ा बाजार में लिए लुखाटी हाथ, जो घर फूके आपने चले हमारे साथ. Kabir is there in the market with a walking stick, and if you are willing to jeopardize your own household, then you come accompany me. Today, people who want to take a stand against this communal poison which is being injected into the society must be willing to take a risk, must be willing to take a risk not only in the communities which are against our communities, but within our communities also. Because it is not that the communal poison is limited to just one section of the society. There's a communal divide, and there's a competitive communalism which we are witnessing. And can we do this plain speaking? Can the people who believe in egalitarian society, people who believe in multi-faith values, can they come together? Can they risk now speaking out? Can they communicate with larger public in their own language? And wherever such things have happened globally, the societies have had to pay a very high cost. And after that, reconciliations have happened. Whether in today's India, can we do that reconciliation before paying that high cost is the question. So I am just doing a very plain, loud thinking, because what is happening today, and especially today, we are in Prague, but all the news that I'm seeing, all the videos that I'm seeing, just gives a message that in India, you can't seek justice. There are people who are willing to further the divide, and their voice is getting amplified more than the voice of people like us. So what I think is that even in diaspora, because diaspora is living in societies, the price will be paid not only by the peace-loving or the minorities or the vulnerable sections in India, but the world itself will be paying a huge cost. So this is something that I wanted to share. And somewhere, can the initiatives like this go beyond our closed room circles and go to masses? This is the challenge today, because unless we go to masses, unless we reach out to them, it will be very difficult to rein in what is happening today in India.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sapul Saab. मैं आपको ये बताना चाहूँगा कि we have with us leaders from different backgrounds. Like we have politicians, councillors, we have deputy chair of the Newham Council, the Bolton Council councillors. We have leaders from Labour Party, Conservative Party. We've also got religious leaders as well. We've got entrepreneurs, businessmen. So everyone is representing a big section of society in their own capacity, sir. So although this was initially a first meeting, so a second meeting as to how we start collectively reaching out to the masses, reaching out to the government. So इसके लिए हमारी एक सबको हमको इकट्ठा करने का मकसद ये था कि हम आप जैसे लोगों से सुने. हमने महमूद मदनी साहब को सुना अभी, We have some other eminent leaders as well. So we were like कि हम आपसे सुनकर किस तरह हम अपनी चीज को, इस मिशन को, इस काम को पॉजिटिवली इंडिया के लिए हम काम कर सकते हैं। इसी के साथ साथ मैं इनवाइट करूंगा कि हमारे पास अगर कोई किसी को अगर क्वेश्चन पूछना है तो यस सर प्लीज।
मोहम्मद भाई प्लीज
कमेंट।
Assalamualaikum, Mr. Khurshid.
Yes, walaikum salam.
Right, just a simple question for you, sir. I know there are many eminent lawyers like yourselves in India, and I believe that you're a practicing barrister in India. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, you know, these bulldozing the houses of alleged culprits from certain community. There's no due process as such. Well, what about you guys? Why can't you do something about it? Why can't you take the government to the Supreme Court or the High Court?
Well, let me just tell you that this is a very peculiar situation. A lot of the demolitions that are going on, at least I know for my state of UP, are not simply directed against persons who are being accused of having violated the law in some manner. But these demolitions are going on across the board. Across the board, whatever the government believes the systems were, they are suddenly pulling out the law from somewhere, and they don't disclose what it is and how it is, and they are doing demolitions galore in many of the cities of Uttar Pradesh. And you can barely tell that this demolition is a routine demolition, and this demolition is being done because they have accused somebody of violating the peace, as it were, of the town. Now, when this happened in Khargone and this happened in Northeast Delhi. In Northeast Delhi, immediately people were able to get protection from the Supreme Court. In Khargone, there was some matter that came to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, you must proceed with the High Court. You can't come directly here, because, which is right, the High Court is better equipped to know what is happening locally. So the matters went back to the High Court, and they haven't come. It isn't as though all the relevant material that the Supreme Court could assume is relevant and can be considered at the level of the Supreme Court is made available. It's unfortunately the biggest drawback we have in our activism is this low-level competitive lawyering. You know, give this to me, don't give this to anyone else. Don't go there, and don't take a Muslim lawyer, don't take a so-and-so lawyer, etc. Unfortunately, throughout the Northeast riots and the follow-up of the Northeast riots, we experienced this happening again and again, which is tragic, which is very, very tragic. But if people could come together, because lawyers can't take cases on their own, lawyers have to be briefed. They have to have material from a client or somebody who represents the client. And if we could have a common platform from which documents were produced and the claims were given, then at the appropriate level, whether it's the High Court or the Supreme Court, the matter can be pursued. Right now, what is happening during vacation. So therefore, you have to be even more careful that your claim is so cogent and convincing that the courts would be willing to hear it during vacation. But that will be over in another 2 weeks' time, and the courts will be back resuming in the normal way. But what this requires is a little bit of activism within the community, or dealing with those persons who are good at collecting material and making that material available. I mean, I come from Farrukhabad. I've not even been able to get any material from Farrukhabad from people who merely come and complain and say nothing, but they don't even produce a piece of paper or notice which I can find fault with and I can produce before a court. And I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to do that for a limited way for Farrukhabad. But if this is something that would be understood, then we would be able to take these matters up a little more effectively. The sum total, I think, of what happens is that people whose homes are demolished do not have legal basis for having built those homes there. And the government turns a blind eye. Nobody ever questions anyone. Nobody ever gives planning permission notices, etc. But when they find that they've done something that the government is upset with, then the government uses that as an excuse to go and bulldoze the house. And they take some very malicious pleasure in doing it. So frankly, it's a difficult case to argue that be the fact that somebody does not have planning permission, but the houses should not be touched. But
surely, I understand. There's nothing 100% legal in India as such. But what I'm saying is there must be a due process which one has to follow. And then the due process is you apply to the court. Even the government has to apply to the court in the first instance.
I know, I understand that. But somebody is to give you a piece of paper, no? Somebody was to give you a piece of paper that I was given this 2 days in advance, and the law requires 30 days notice or 15 days notice. And I couldn't even reply because every time I wanted to reply, they said, we'll demolish more of your house. So the due process idea will have to be pursued by all our individual persons ensuring that we get some material. Otherwise, you go to court and you get slapped with 50,000 and 1 lakh costs. And obviously that cost is not imposed on the lawyer, it's imposed on the name of the client. So I think we have to learn to take the law effectively. And I believe the other persons who have spoken to you earlier in the day may be well equipped to do that, because periodically they do challenge matters in the Supreme Court, in the High Courts, and they do have material. They collect material through their volunteers and through various persons. But
thank you, sir.
That's the high priority.
Mufti Sahab,
anyone has got any questions before?
No, we are going to have to be a little bit cutthroat now.
Yeah, okay.
Because we are due to finish at 3 o'clock. And I would propose only those questions that get asked that are relevant to how we move forward. So we have, how many speakers do we have remaining now?
No, we do. I think this is.
No, we have.
Sorry, this was a relevant question.
No, sure. No, going forward. No, it's very difficult, but going forward because of time, that's all.
Sure.
Going forward.
Salman Sahab, thank you so much to you and Gurdeep Sahab. I've just been given a note that we would like to have something together, an international conference, or leaders from our side, from the UK, would like to come down to India, and we escalate this discussion, and as to how we can bring back the true democratic and constitutional values of India. So that's all for us for this session.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you all personally, and even before that, any information that you can give us, any contacts, etc. Anybody who is in need of help, we would certainly take the road to that person, immediately take the extra mile, and make sure that we can get them the relief that they deserve. The atmosphere is not good, certainly not good. That has its impact, that has an impact on institutions as well. But we are not disheartened. We are not going to surrender to any negativity. Whatever is possible, we will do. I promise you that we will, and there are many people who are willing to do that.
Thank you,
Salman Sahab, before you go, Salman Sahab, just one observation very quickly, sir, and of course to Gurdeep Sahab as well. I associate with Valuesin UK, which is a national organization. लेकिन आपको हमने पूरी लाइफ देखा है सियासत में, तकरीबन 35-40 साल हो गए सर. हम तो बचपन में स्कूल में थे, फिर कॉलेज में आए, यूनिवर्सिटी में. तो 40 साल पहले भी आप ऐसे लगते थे, आज भी ऐसे हैं. तो हिंदुस्तान की सियासत ने आपको अभी तक थकाया नहीं?
ये एक ऐसा है, थका नहीं हूँ, लेकिन अक्सर ये कहते हैं, वो हेमिंगवे कहा करते थे कि जो बेंड नहीं करता है वो टूट जाता है. और मैंने अभी तक कोशिश करी है कि मैं बेंड ना करूं, और ऊपर वाले का करम है कि मैं टूटा नहीं. तो
आपका चेहरे का नूर वही है सर. थैंक यू.